In the previous video, we have seen how we created an algorithm or drawn a flowchart to solve some simple examples. In this video, the example is a bit more realistic. It is a bit more complex, in which that we're asking the users to input the numbers, and then we're going to average all the numbers that are inputted by the user. So let's start. So here's the description of the problem. So the program asks the user to input the number of data to be averaged. So the user determines how many data that he or she has. And then once he or she has stated the how many numbers that they have, and then the user will input the data one by one. So the number is inputted one by one. Finally, once all the numbers have been inputted, the program will calculate the average of all data and then also print the average. So that's the problem, and we're going to create a flowchart to show the ideas of solving this problem in a computer program. You may start drawing the flowchart from anywhere you like actually, but if you do not have any idea, then you may just start by following the points in the question or the problem, okay? So first it says the program asks the user to input the number of data. Okay, so we draw a parallelogram. It represents the input. And then it says we're going to read the number of data as input from the user. We specify that we are going to store the value, the number of data or the total data that the user has in a variable called total data. Okay. We move to the second point. It says that the user inputs the data one by one. Okay. Again, this is about input, so the shape is a parallelogram. And then it says we're going to read a number, just one number, because it says the user will input the data one by one. So we're going to read a number as the input from the user. And then we store this individual number in a variable called num. Okay. So num is different from total data. Total data is how many numbers you have. And then this num is a single number in the data set that you have. Okay. And then finally, it says that the program calculates the average, and then it will print the average. So in order to calculate the average, we need to have something like a cumulative of all data that we have in the data set divided by this total data. Okay. So somewhere later we will need to have the cumulative, but here we just say we're going to have a cumulative, and then the name of the variable is cumul divided by the total data that we have. And then we store the result in this variable AVE, or the average. So AVE equals cumulative divided by total data. And then we're going to display or print this AVE variable, the value of this AVE variable. So that's pretty much what we're going to do based on the problem. Next, we're going to complete all the other steps to make this flowchart complete. So this is what we've seen so far from the previous slide. Now we're focusing on the second point here. It says that the user inputs the data one by one. Now think about it. How many times does a user need to input the data? Obviously, the user needs to input the data up to this amount, up to this total data amount, right? So if we have not reached the total data, then we need to keep inputting the number until we have reached the total data that we want or we have, right? So it means that we need to have something like a question with a diamond here, asking like, are we still below the total data that we are supposed to have? Okay. If we are still below that number, then we need to keep inputting the number. Or from the viewpoint of the program needs to read a number as the input from the user if we are still below the total data. But if we have reached the total data, we are not below that, it means that we are now ready to calculate the average. Okay, so if yes, we are still below the total data, we need to ask the program to read the number. If no, we are not below the total data, then it means we are ready to calculate the average. Okay, so that's how we are reading this diamond and the consequence of yes and no. Okay, now we need a variable I here to record how many times we have inputted the data. If we are still below the total data, we need to keep inputting the data. If we have reached the total data, and then we can calculate the average. So this I is something that we need to keep updating it such that it can record how many times we have inputted the data. Have we reached the total data or we are still below that? Okay. So I is something that we need to update. Each time we have inputted number, we need to update I, saying like, oh, I have inputted one more number. That's why it is I equals I plus 1 here. Because each time we have inputted one more number, our I should be also increased by 1. Okay, because again, the reason is because we have now inputted one more number. So I must be updated. Okay. Now, remember that for whatever variable that you have, you need to state what is the beginning value of that number. Here, because we're talking about recording how many data that we have inputted, it means that we are going to start with I equals 0, which means that at the beginning we do not have any number that we input to the program. Okay, so it starts with 0, and then the program will check, has it reached the total data limit? If not, we input the data, and then we update this I with plus 1. Okay, and then after here, it will check the condition again. If we have not reached the total data, it will read another number, and then update I, and then going back to there. Okay, so that's how it works. So we have first set I equals 0, and then we also have a place saying that whenever we have inputted a new number, and then we're going to update I equals I plus 1. Now, when we talk about this cumulative, it's pretty much the similar thing, okay? So we also need to update this cumulative each time we input number. So whatever number we input here, we need to add it to the cumulative. So this is how we read it. The variable cumulative equals the old value of that variable cumulative itself plus the new number that we just inputted before. Okay, so cumulative equals cumulative plus num. Okay, so this is how you update a variable and keep updating it. Similar as before, you need to state at the beginning what is the value of this cumulative variable. So I'm going to set cumulative cumul equals 0 here. Because if you do not define cumul variable equals 0 at the beginning, then computer does not understand what is the initial value for this variable. It can be 0, it can be -1, it can be 1,000, it can be 3.5, it can be whatever, okay? So you need to make sure that whenever you have a variable, especially when you're going to add something to that variable, make something that is cumulative or anything, make sure that you set the value of the variable at the beginning. Okay, so these are all the things that we need to do, and then you just complete the flowchart by adding an oval shape and put the begin here, and then declare all the variable. Total data is an integer, I is an integer, cumulative is a float, num also is a float, then average is also a float. So now the flowchart is complete and this is all you need to do. It's pretty simple, right? So see you on the next video and thanks for watching.